acting up, so I apologize for that. I might glitch out.
So I'm going to start the recording now that we have a quorum. And read my little notice here. So this is the Wednesday, February 28th meeting of the Open Space Ad Hoc Committee, Town of Lunenburg. And we are on Zoom, and this is also being recorded and will be on public access on Facebook Live. And then later on, the recording will be on the Facebook Lunenburg Public Access Facebook page. And just the meeting is, what's the meeting number here? Somewhere on here. Meeting number is 766-316-7607. Not that that matters, but pursuant to the governor's extension of the open meeting law, we are holding this meeting remotely, and that does matter. So let's call this meeting to order. We don't have a lot of business tonight. The first thing is, and I know that Eric can't make it tonight, but Eric did provide us with minutes from our January meeting. I don't know whether members have had a chance to take a look at those.
Mike, I think you need to do a roll call.
I could do a roll call, or the vice chair could do that. Anna?
Okay. Roll call. Mike Toohill,
Yes.
Brandon Kibbe,
Yep.
Mary Wilson,
Here.
Matthew Allison,
Here,
and I'm Anna Lockwood. I'm also present.
All right. Thank you, Anna, for reminding me of that. Now we can go on to the minutes. Does anybody have any questions about the minutes from January 10th?
I read them and it appeared accurate to me.
Okay, so I would, if anybody else has anything, if you don't, I would entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the minutes as distributed.
Thank you.
I'll second that.
Second by Anna Lockwood. Oh, by the way, who's our recording secretary tonight? Brandon?
Yes.
Doing clerk duties for us. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Just want to make sure of that. Okay. So we have a motion and a second. I'll go ahead and do roll call. So Anna,
Aye.
Mary,
Aye.
Matthew,
aye.
Brandon,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. So the minutes from January 10th, 2024 have been accepted. I will forward those to the town clerk's office. Okay. Next thing we want to talk about is several of us, Anna, Matt, and I were at the Board of Selectmen meeting on site, and it was we posted the meeting too, but we didn't have a quorum. Parks did have a quorum, so it was a combined Parks, Open Space, and Select Board meeting on site at the two sites we've been discussing, Parmenter Road and Reservoir Road, Fire Road 12. On the 17th of February, we had a really good site visit, lots of people out. We started at Parmenter. There were probably 60, 70 people there. Parked all up and down the street, so proved there can be parking there. Because everybody parked on the street and everybody could still get through. So, but anyway, it was a good site visit there. And then we all, we took a look at that, spent some time talking about that there. The select board chair asked me just to, reiterate what our recommendation was to the Board of Selectmen and why, which I did. And there was a lot of discussion by the residents of, how appropriate the site was or not appropriate the site was. But it was really good to get everybody out there and to have the Board of Selectmen see the site and see a couple of the encroachments on the site as well, which turned out to be great. And we went from there down to Fire Road 12, down to Reservoir Road. And
Did the whole convoy go, or?
no, actually, we wound up probably with 40. So we had some drop off from, the 60, 70 down to 40 or so, but there were a good 40. There were still a lot of people down there, Brandon. And we started up by Reservoir Road where Fire Road 12 comes in, talked about that area up there, walked down the road. when you first get down the road on Fire Road 12 on the left-hand side, there's a telephone power line that runs through there that's on an old road that connects back to Reservoir. So we walked through there, but first I took them all the way around to the other side, and where I parked my car down on Fire Road 12 in the paved area. And we're standing there, and it was really interesting because the select board members said, well, where's our property? And we're standing on a paved parking lot. And I said, you're standing on it. This is our property. And they said, they paved our property? And I said, yes, they did. So I had the property maps, showed them where the different potential access points are. There were a lot of residents that made the point that would, regardless of where we try to go in Stump Cove, it's going to be difficult because it's very shallow, it's very weedy. Matthew and I talked about it. You know, there are ways to be able to clear a small channel through there, obviously with Conservation Commission approval, but it's not insurmountable. Right now, what people are doing is they're parking on Reservoir Road, and I guess they're actually they're not putting in right on Reservoir, but they're going around to, and I'm going to forget the name of the road that's right around the corner. Oh shoot, we have the town owns another 0.04 acre parcel on this other road, and that's where there's access to deeper water over there.
Is
But
that
there
not a fire road as well?
No, it's got a name, and I had the file in front of me, and I don't have it in front of me now, Mary. I apologize. It's just to the north off Reservoir Road from where Fire Road 12 is. It's the next road up. It actually has a name. And anyway, we walked around. Then we walked back to where that telephone line goes through, the power line goes through, and we walked in that larger part of the parcel because it's a 3.3 acre parcel in total. And the substantial part of the upland is on this little access road that's on the side. And Matthew decided to test the ice, and we didn't have to pull him out of the lake, so that worked out well. We had a good meeting there. We had a good discussion with the residents. You know, there are a lot of questions, but Michael Ray was actually very good about saying, look, we're not here to talk about a particular design. So all your questions are good questions. You have questions about, you know, public safety, about sanitation, about parking, about all these things. Those are all good questions. But the motion in front of us from open space, or the request from open space, is to transfer this to the care control of parks, not to talk about whether we're putting in a boat ramp or, you know, anything else. We hear you. And we wound up leaving at that point. We were out there from, I think the meeting started at 10. We were out there till 11:15, 11:20, something like that, between the two sites. The select board is going to bring this up at their second meeting in March. They had a full agenda, I guess, on the first meeting. So Michael Ray said that they would bring it up on the second meeting in March and let us know about it. So both us and Parks, so we can attend the meeting as well.
One thing I'll mention,
Yeah, go ahead.
I could be incorrect, but I think I saw it in their meeting on their agenda for next week.
Oh, okay. So he told me it was going to be the second meeting, and I haven't checked their agenda
Right.
yet for next week. Okay. All right.
I'm checking it. I don't know if, you know, if it got added, but he doesn't have any intention to taking. I maybe it's worth for you, Michael, to do a touch base with him.
Yeah, I'm pulling up their agenda right now, and
Yeah, it's under old business.
yeah, you're right. It is. Okay. Yeah, I will touch base with the select board and with Heather, and that's their meeting is on the 5th, which unfortunately, Anna, I cannot make. Can you make a meeting on the
Okay.
5th?
I can.
Okay.
It'll be great if we have other people there, aside from just me.
Yeah, and I will, I have another appointment. I'll try to reschedule that. I don't know if I can, but I will try.
Well, check with Michael Ray because it could be that is just a default for pending items and his
And they're actually
intentions
not
to
gonna
take
bring it
on.
up. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Matthew, what'd you say?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was just concurring with Anna that, yeah, planning board typically will have stuff on our old business that we don't, if it's on the agenda, we can talk about it, but we don't typically, so I'm not
Okay.
sure select boards like that, but that is a possibility.
All right, thank you both. I will check in with them and try to see what's going on for next week. Okay.
So, if I'm curious about the property that you were saying there was additional property, I have the map up. Could I share that? Could you point that out to me?
I think it's
Uh,
on Flynn Road.
Flynn Road, yes, thank you. It's a 0.04 acre parcel on Flynn Road.
That the town owns. It doesn't
Yes.
abut this, or it does?
It
That's
does not
not-
abut this. I think it's on the opposite side of the road, if I remember right, Brandon.
Yeah, I think that's right. And Flynn Road's surprising to me that people would park at the Reservoir Road tract and hike their way up, dragging a boat to the other site because
I was surprised too, but it was a gentleman that lives on Flynn Road that was telling me that that's where he has seen most of the people that park out there. They hike the kayak or canoe around, which I was surprised because it's not
Quite
not
a
far.
walk. Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
I know when I've launched there, I just launched right at Shirley Road.
And I've seen people launch right there too. But anyway,
Yeah.
we really couldn't talk much about the Flynn Road parcel because that was not part of the posted discussion. But it came up from one of the residents, so I just thought I'd mention that. Okay.
And that was a parcel that had been discussed by the Open Space Committee at
We did.
some
We looked
point
at that.
long ago, and
Right.
was sort of
We looked at
dismissed
that,
as
and we
a.
looked at a couple of parcels that are on the opposite side of Reservoir Road as well. I think there were 5 parcels. I went back through some of the records, 5 or 6 parcels that we looked at down there. We kind of narrowed down on these 2. Yeah. Okay.
I found it.
All right. Matthew or Anna, anything else that you want to add from the site visit?
So I guess Shady Point sent a news letter to the select board offering town access to their property if we don't pass these properties to the Parks Commission. I probably spoke briefly with Michael Ray about it. And the gentleman was there with copies of the letter. And I think that's something that we should talk about it. And I do have this item on the agenda for Parks tomorrow.
Okay.
Because what we want to do is, what I'm going to ask the group is, I see the benefit of having immediate access to Lake Shirley with already the built-in infrastructure. I see some drawbacks, a little bit, especially access during the weekends because they're very busy. I don't think it'll be very welcoming for residents. But we would have it all week long where, I don't think they have a lot of movement. And I don't know how Michael Ray's planning to handle this situation into, are they going to approve? Are they not going to approve? Are they going to deny because of this, this proposal? What does that mean for us? And I kind of wanted to have a discussion about what is our position regarding that and what we'd like to see it. And, and the second part to it is as well, I know, Mike, when the last time that you and I were in that meeting with the select board, I wasn't expecting to be talking with residents there. I expected to be a board combined meeting, because if it was the case, we're trying to see if there's support from the public for this case. I think there is public support. But I didn't think that meeting was for that, and that ended up being that way. So also, I kind of want to see if we can talk about what is that we're presenting when we talk with them, what is our position as a group. So anyway,
So just to fill in that a little bit more, and Anna, thank you for reminding me about that. The Shady Point folks have apparently, did not see the letter. I don't know whether you did, Anna, but they apparently wrote a letter to the select board stating that they would be willing to provide free access to, and you know, a lot of details to be worked out. How do you, to the Lunenburg residents, but do you do that on a permit basis? You know, do you have to have a sticker? I mean, how do you do it? I mean, there's a lot of details that need to be worked out, but it would be free access. And the upside to it is they already have infrastructure, they have safety, they have, you know, a lot of the things that the residents are concerned about. One of the downsides is that it's a tough place to put in a canoe or a kayak because there's so much motorboating activity right there. And so I don't know that it's an equal substitute for a more quiescent location to be able to put in a kayak or a canoe.
right.
I think it's great that they're doing that.
Right. So what is our position as the Open Space Commission? As regards to their offer and our request, because I think Michael Ray's not playing, but he's evaluating both asks and proposals at the same time. And their offer is contingent upon the select board not passing the care and control to the Parks Commission. A nuance to that is, you know, the select board is not passing any control. This is more of supporting.
Mhm.
Really, town meeting makes the decision of that. It's not the select board. You can make a case that if a town meeting warrant doesn't have a select board support, is not likely to have. I can point it out to several town meeting warrants that select board was pro and it was defeated. But, you know, like, what is our position as a group? We voted to request this. We have an offer of something. Do we change our request? Do we see as one for one? At least for now, what is our position? Because I think we need to be able to communicate that to the select board.
And
Yeah.
what is the letter, right? I mean, I haven't seen the letter. Is it limitations on access or is it full access?
Yeah.
Is to no motorized boating. I can forward it to you all. I'm not sure if you forwarding now you guys will be able to read it. But it is
You
no
got a copy of
motorized.
it, Anna?
Yeah, Michael Ray forwarded to me, and I'm sorry that I didn't think of forwarding to you guys.
Oh, okay.
Can I interrupt you?
Yeah,
So I don't want to get too far afield here, but the open space subcommittee, I believe, and Brandon, please correct me if I'm wrong, was originally put together just to give a referral for the first right of refusals. And then has blossomed into looking at open space parcels owned by the town and making recommendations. But I believe it's still pretty much just to the acquisition of parcels by the town in general.
No, I mean, we were originally actually established to draft the open space and recreation plan.
Right.
It was an advisory board, and we're advisory board to the planning or advisory ad hoc committee, blah, 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 lots of words to the planning board, but an advisory committee nonetheless. And then once the first open space plan was written, that's now one open space plan ago. Then the planning board adjusted our mission to be like a standard open space committee, but still an advisory committee to the planning board. So we changed our mission, but we didn't change our structure. So we remained sort of in that advisory role to the planning board. So we do have the full function of an open space committee and have been functioning that way ever since. So yes, one of the things we looked at is right of first refusals. We of course did the rewrite of the open space plan. We've done a variety of other advised on other acquisitions in town. And so we've certainly played that role. Of course, the open space committee, and it's called an open space and recreation plan. And so advising on recreation related matters is certainly within mission as well, to implement the open space plan. So it all feels appropriate to me to be providing advice. And again, we can't approve anything. We're an emperor with no clothes, but that's fine. And it's just a matter of providing some advice and opinion. So I think this is all within our scope and mission.
Certainly, and I don't disagree with anything you said, and I'm sorry if you feel like I minimized this group in any way, because this
Not
group
at
is
all.
a fabulous asset to the town in general for a number of years, and I agree with you, Brandon, that the open space report that you put together, the plan, fabulous, amazing work comes out of this group. But I just don't want to lose sight of that regardless of who has care and control of any piece of property, we can always talk about projects. And I think that this was a really good exercise, but I don't think that we should get overly concerned about who has care, custody, and control of what pieces of land. I think that this is a great discussion, and I think that the track is great. The people involved, the communications and the correspondence and whatnot is excellent. But I don't think that it's imperative who is in care, custody, and control of whatever parcel. And I just didn't want to get lost in the weeds on that.
Yeah, I mean, it does have some bearing. Who has the town entity that has care and control of the property does actually have bearing on access to various grants and other things. So it's not that it's without meaning. So that is an important point to be made related to that. So if the town did want to say further develop one of these parcels down the road, and they wanted to take advantage of state funding available to do that, it would have to be in the care and control of such an entity to do that. So
Good point. Thank you.
Yeah, I just, my thought is we made a request to the select board, and there is new information, there is new offer, and what is our position? Because I think since we have communicated something to the select board, I think it's, are we changing our request? I just think it's a good exercise for us to go through and answer that or not.
Sure. I echo the sentiment. It's a little difficult to offer a firm opinion of it without having seen it. I'll tell you what a couple of my questions are. Is first of all, what guarantee is there for public access going forward? In other words, is it just they say the residents can have it and then they can decide to revoke that a year and a half from now? Who knows? So is there any sort of permanence to what they're offering and any sort of guarantee to it? It's private land, privately owned and managed. And so guaranteed public access means something. And so it does raise the question. But it's a really meaningful offer. So I would be interested in exploring that further. And I think the town should be interested in exploring it further, but guaranteeing that public access for, if not for perpetuity, for some duration of time, meaningful duration of time would be an important component to me anyway. I hear Mike's point about that site maybe not being ideal for launching canoes and kayaks, but oftentimes a multi-purpose boat ramp like at Whalum, for instance, is the only public access point to a body of water, and we all have to get along in that instance. And those of us who prefer paddle powered boats will have to get in and get out and get down the lake the best we can. And you're on a multi-purpose lake with multi types of users, and so it's challenging, but it's certainly better than no access.
And it
And
wouldn't
shared
preclude-
access, and I would say shared access to town residents is a pretty nice offer there.
It wouldn't preclude people from still using the Reservoir Road, Fire Road 12 property, because
Exactly.
whether that gets transferred or not, it is still municipal land. It's still public land with access
Right.
to the lake.
Which was given to the town for, you'll remember, was that whole part with the Lake Shirley Dam was supposed to provide.
Well, that's interesting, Brendan, because no one has been able to put their hands on that
Right.
document.
Right.
And there was actually it was one of the folks from the campground that said he might have it somewhere in a file. So I asked him if he wouldn't, share that with us.
That would help a lot.
Yeah, because no one is sure if that's the parcel that we were talking about. And the whole issue about title came up. And there are ways to clear the title without having to go to town meeting. So clearing the title is not a big deal. It's some work on the part of the Board of Selectmen, but it's not a big deal to do that. So Anna, I think in answer to your question, my point is I haven't seen this agreement. I have some questions about it, and I don't know that. I think it would be premature on my part to vote to change our recommendation to the Board of Selectmen at this point.
Okay. And I mean, I just wanted to have this conversation. I forwarded you all the email that Michael Ray had forwarded me. And I know Michael Ray, once he got that, he immediately called them and he said it would need to be put in writing as a contract. But I don't know how far, he has driven that process.
Okay.
So we just gotta be ready for when it comes time for us to meet, that they will deny our request because of this pending item.
Well, that's their prerogative.
It is. Well, interesting to say that because, I seen the select board taking different positions on other boards' recommendations from, depends on how they feel about a subject. They want to, and I can tell you, appointing people to other boards, I have heard them say, we should hear the board members from the other board members from, what the committee, and we should make our own decisions. I have heard them saying, we shouldn't. Anyway, I have heard them being very contradictory on their previous statements and future statements.
Okay.
That's their prerogative, but I think, the question then, and I'm just playing this a little bit, and maybe we don't have to, is if they say no, what would be our position? Do we just lay this to rest? Do we bring this to town meeting ourselves? We don't necessarily, it would be a citizen petition. Or should we cross that bridge when time comes?
Well, ultimately, that would be a citizen's prerogative. Speaking of prerogatives, right? And so I think we have to let the request that has been made to the Board of Selectmen play out, and then if we get closer to the time where warrant articles are due and things need to be done, then if a concerned citizen wants to make a citizen's petition to preserve one's right to do so, then I strongly support that citizen taking their rights into their own hands.
Okay.
Yeah, I would like us to appear, us and Recreation to appear before the Board of Selectmen to have that continued discussion first before this board, this committee starts to make decisions on whether, recommendations need to be changed. That's just my
Sure.
opinion.
No, I appreciate that, and I support it. I wanted to have that conversation because this Shady Point offer, it was new, and now we're gonna likely be in front of the select board about this item before we having a chance to meet again. And so I appreciate. Thank you for entertaining the conversation.
Sure. Anything else? Any members have anything else about this particular subject? I'll check in with Heather and see, whether or not we're actually on next week. Sorry, Matthew, I interrupted you.
No, that's all right. You're the chair. You're able to do that. So I recall somebody saying, and I honestly don't remember who it was. It was the crowd, that Stump Cove had been taken for tax purposes when all the properties were combined to create the lake. That's what I remember hearing, and I could be wrong, but
It was taken in 1950s. I said that. It was taken in
okay, well, there you go.
1957. Yeah, it was taken in
Oh.
1957 for taxes, and it was foreclosed on in 1974.
Doesn't that clear the title?
It would if it was recorded as such. And the problem is it wasn't recorded and the meets and bounds weren't recorded, and we can't find the, some of the town records, town meeting records were destroyed in a flood.
Right.
And we went to land court. It should have been land courted. It wasn't. We checked the registry, did the title search. We know that there are properties that were owned by Montanen, and that came up at the site visit. Several people were talking about the Montanen family. Matter of fact, Shady Point was originally owned by the Montanen family. So there were parcels that were taken out of the holdings of Montanen and sold off, and there was this remainder land. And the problem is in order to be able to figure out, you have to chase every title and get meets and bounds from every property in order to figure out if the remainder land that we're talking about is the land that we were standing on.
Okay, so you're fully aware of the comment because you made it, and I'm
Yep.
sorry. I just wanted.
No,
to-
that's okay. I've had several discussions with town council. Matter of fact, Paula brought this up quite a while ago, right, Brandon?
Yeah, and the Montanen, to make it even more complicated, is the original Montanen ownership predated the raising of the water level. So
Right.
the title description predated the new dam. And so the water level was raised, and so when you look at what Mike was describing earlier, where the power lines or telephone lines or whatever goes down an old road, that was actually an old town road that had to be abandoned when the water level was raised, and the road now dives down into the reservoir where it used to be back in the olden days. And so was the Montanen land only on one side of that road? Was it on both sides of that road? I mean, there's so many title questions that from a meets and bounds standpoint, it's just really hard. It would be almost unsolvable from a title perspective.
To bring that up, an old road would be an ideal boat launch, right? That goes right into the water.
Unfortunately, where it goes into the water is literally between two houses.
Oh.
On the other side of Fire Road 12, because
Right.
it goes, the old road goes across Fire Road 12. It was an old intersection there,
Right.
and it just dives off into the water between two houses.
But doesn't all this dialogue mean that it wasn't the parcel that was conveyed to the town to allow public access?
Does this mean it was not the
Oh,
parcel?
because it was the tax title land. It's a good question.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know that we can. Again, I don't know that we can approve it out. Because what was actually taken for tax title, what was actually given,
Right.
And you can't. point to it on the ground and say, that's the piece right there, because it's described.
Okay, anybody else on the subject? Or are we all set moving forward for right now?
Sounds like it's exhausted.
Okay, so I'll like I said, I'll check in with Heather and see what's going on with the select board as far as discussing this again and discussing the Shady Point issue as well. All right. Next item on the agenda is does parks or planning or conservation have anything to bring to open space? Any information that we need to know?
I can give you all an update on Marshall, which I had hoped to get fully funded this town meeting, but as you can imagine, it's not happening. We also have not heard back about the Land and Water Conservation Fund budget and grant. And if we receive that grant, I have said it with very clear words to town manager that if we have that $1 million grant, we will go for funding in the special town meeting. You know, I'm a little disappointed with the budget this year. There is regular debt that's falling off of the budget, so that's not excluded. That's money that's inside of our budget. We're at the lowest since 2018, and all that money is just turned into operational budget. And if it keeps going that way, we're never going to be able to do anything in town without excluded that. And you know, in open space and recreation, it feels like small things, and that's the frustration sometimes that I have with that. You know, the select board wants to hold so much power and control over things, but they actually don't have the time to dedicate to do different things. They barely have the time to manage the budget with all the needs and looking for everything. So anyway, so we are still in status quo with Marshall, but we do have the RFQ for the owner's project manager, and that's going to be built with the grant money that we received and ARPA money. So we do have $1.5 million, and the goal is to break ground in the summer for that. And the construction then will be the pavilion, the playground, and the courts, which is 3 pickleball courts and a basketball court. So that's going to happen. But the second part of the funding, we don't know yet, and we don't know the result of the grant. That's update from Parks.
Thank you.
All right, so from planning, you ready for me?
Yes, sir.
So something that came to my attention today, in fact, is that earlier this month, we approved an A&R that was brought to us for 100 Howard Street. Apparently, it's still in chapter, and we approved the A&R lots. There were 4 lots taken off, and I think the parent lot is 60-something acres. It's the tree farm on Hollis and New West Townsend, or whatever that split is. And I'm not entirely sure of the technicalities of it, but I believe that it should have been removed from chapter before the A&R process was submitted, but I'm not quite sure, and I can't really confirm that because we don't have any staff. So apparently we have subdivided a 64-acre parcel in chapter into 5 lots for the 5th one remaining, but apparently there are 4 brand new lots that are still in chapter, and I'm not quite sure how this process should have played out versus how it can play out from here on. But that's the situation that I found out about today.
What was the address again, Matthew?
I believe it was 100 Howard Street was the A&R application.
Okay,
It was February 13th, I believe, was our meeting, our planning meeting, that we approved it. And it's not important. Our hands are very tied on A&R applications, and without a planning director, without a land use director, without really any paid staff or professional guidance,
Mhm.
aside from Richard Harris, who is only giving us 10 hours a week, and he's doing a great job. Don't get me wrong, but the ball has been dropped here, in my opinion. And I'm not quite sure how it's going to play out, but I do realize we have 90 days for the first right of refusal. And I don't know if, like I said, I think that should have happened before the A&R process, but okay, Brandon, please.
Yeah, so, so it's a 120-day right of first refusal. But that would need to be triggered by a notice from the seller. I think you're right. It was improper to approve the A&R without the property being withdrawn, but I think that's something that you would need town council's opinion on, and I would recommend that the planning board seeks town council's read on that. But it strikes me that at the very least, it's something that, again, probably a letter from town council to the landowner indicating that that there was that this happened, that the property is still in Chapter 61, and technically you need a minimum of 10 acres to be in Chapter 61. So are each of those 5 lots still 10 acres in size? If it was a 60-acre parent lot, hopefully maybe that's true, but it's also probably quite possible that it's not. I imagine it's probably a hammerhead lot, standard lot, hammerhead lot, standard lot kind of thing.
No, there were 3 hammerhead, there were 3 reduced frontage and 1 regular, I believe, but you're correct. And I think that the 10-acre requirement is for forestry. I know the agriculture is 5, and I think recreation is 5 as well, but
Recreation's 5, forestry's 10, agriculture's 5. Yeah. So anyway, and they can transfer from one program to the other without penalty. I believe that's also the case with Chapter 61. So if the acreage on those lots is more than 5, but less than the 10, then they could conceivably transfer to recreation, for instance. It's not the same tax benefit, but I believe the revised law provides for the ability to transfer between programs. But the bottom line is that I think it's something that town council should review, and they should probably notify the landowner that they are not in compliance with Chapter 61, and that they should probably take some steps. One of those steps may be to retroactively notify the town of its right of first refusal, which would then start the clock at 120 days for their intent to withdraw. So, I mean, the subdivision is a pretty clear indication of their intent to withdraw. So I think you could argue that, I mean, the town, if the town wanted to, could argue that you exercised your right of first refusal, or you indicated to the town your intention to withdraw. The town then has a right of first refusal on that property. And since they did not provide a bona fide offer, then we would have the right to get the property appraised and buy it at appraised value. So
Can you subdivide property that's in Chapter 61?
I think if you were to argue it, they probably already have subdivided it. I don't think there's any prohibition in Chapter 61 that would
Well,
preclude
the
it.
question is whether or not it would be a valid subdivision.
Right, and that's another good question for town council.
Right.
That's a really strong point, but I'm not aware of any provision in Chapter 61 that would create such a prohibition outside of the acreage requirements to qualify.
Okay.
So
I mean, as it stands, they're just paper lots. I mean, the land is still in its entirety, but to subdivide it, and I'm not sure that they've been registered at the registry, but that reduction in lot, I mean, would automatically disqualify them. And I think you were alluding to that, but you didn't specifically say it, but those.
Yeah, I think that would be right. I don't know of any case where they allow you to essentially consolidate multiple adjoining parcels that maybe individually are less than the required acreage, and allow them to, I think it has to be considered a single parcel. So, but again, those are town council questions, but important ones. And I would, because I think I know the property you're talking about. The town owns a piece of property directly adjoining it to the west, and a piece of property directly adjoining it to the north, and is almost certainly, if you were to measure that property against our open space acquisition priorities, would be a very highly ranked parcel.
Believe so.
So, speaking for myself anyway, that's a right of first refusal I'd be interested in.
Right.
So,
So very good comments, and I very much appreciate it. And I totally agree that these are all questions for town council.
yeah, especially given that we don't have staff. I mean, without staff there to advise, then I think you have to rely on town council in that case.
Planning board is basically useless right now, kind of. If we got new applications, we're so discombobbled. But I wanted to bring that up and to make this group aware, because again, the first right of refusal, the time clock. And I had previously brought this up a few months back, at least a few months back, that this group indicated a willingness to have a joint meeting to expedite such processes with the planning board.
Right.
But, and like I said, I just wanted to make you aware of this issue. And like Brandon said, maybe what town council comes back with is that, yeah, the A&R application did indicate their motivation or their
Intent.
Yeah, intent, exactly. So anyways, I just wanted to make this group aware of that. And like I said, it just came to me today. This is the first official announcement or speaking of it that I've had. So it's new to me, almost as new as it is to you.
Mary, conservation hasn't seen an ORAD or anything on this, have they? That you know of?
No, we haven't at all. And in terms of first right of refusal, I think that is an area where we'd be very interested in having some dialogue about exercising that right.
The only other comment I'd have on this too, just thinking out loud, is that if the A&R plan was approved at the planning board but not yet recorded and not yet divided into lots, separate lots, from a title perspective, then it's probably not divided into lots until it gets recorded. So they may have an approved plan that has not yet technically divided the land separately.
There's not the legal
deeded
subdivision.
lots.
Yeah.
It's just a picture.
Yeah. And Matthew, you certainly have our sympathies with regard to missing staff. It's certainly been very painful in the conservation office. We have, as everybody probably knows, hired as of December a full-time administrator, but now our part-time resource has given notice, and we weren't caught up with the 5 months of backlog that the full-time missing resource, that have accrued. So I understand the chaos.
And on that note, on a side note, nothing to do with this group, I've spent some time with your current administrator, and she's feeling the heat. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's just an FYI. I appreciate the staff that we do have. I don't appreciate the lack of staff, and I certainly don't appreciate the staff that we did have in planning board being taken over into the building across the street, but that's different topic.
Yeah, we're losing Annie.
Yeah. Okay, in terms of conservation, we have a lot going on. And there's it just mentioned, we're still not out of the backlog, right? We're going to start accruing more backlog just due to ongoing staffing issues. We seem to have a real hard time retaining staff. Yeah, so we have that going on. We had hoped to be kicking off another initiative for Earth Day, joint with Parks, but that still remains to be seen. We've had one meeting. I've had one meeting with Colleen, and I just don't know how much time I'm going to be able to throw at that this year, given all the things going on with the chaos of Conservation Commission activities. We have 2 active grants that are being worked on conservation land. One that the Lunenburg Snow Riders were awarded 2023. That is very close to being able to wrap up. The Snow Riders were doing a bunch of projects on conservation land for improvements, and in return, Mass Trail's going to fund a ATV groomer. The goal with the Snow Riders in getting an ATV for grooming with tracks was that they would be able to provide better support for improvement projects throughout the summer as well. But that one's made some real progress. The Conservation Commission had been awarded recently grant for doing some engineered planning drawings to look at putting parking in 3 areas. And we've been awarded that, but none of us have had time to really work on it at all. So it's on our list. We're trying to watch it to make certain that we don't miss the opportunity, but we've just been so backed up trying to keep the office afloat that it's on the back burner for now.
Have you you guys would probably need an RFP or RFQ for that, right?
Yeah, we're gonna have to raise an RFP for that one.
And is the town going to do that for you, or are you thinking you will need to do that?
We're thinking that we will need to do that.
Okay. Because Heather is the chief what is it? The procurement officer in town.
Mhm.
And also, like, I like getting things done, and for the RFQ for the OPM,
Mhm.
I got it because I wanted to get done because of the grant, and the grant is time, it's timed. I don't want to put a percentage, but I probably delivered the document to Julie at least 80% in. And then it took 2.5 months to finalize it. And
Oh boy.
and I push Heather, can we just
Mhm.
publish this because you're busy? And she said she wasn't comfortable with, publishing, and ultimately it's her decision. So I'm not sure
Well, I
if
think
really
regardless
that
of
responsibility
so
lies with you.
regardless of us or them, I mean, my thinking is that we have to go through the town for the publication of the RFQ. I guess my expectation was that we would be writing and I mean, we're very close, right, to having a fully written biddable scope of work. We had to do that just to, get the grant. I mean, you know how the grants are. You have to almost be done
Right.
before you can even, apply. But it's just a matter of, turning the screw those extra couple of points to get the documentation to them and then work on getting it published.
Okay. The only reason I mentioned is I mentioned that so that if you were planning to do a lot of work, ultimately you may not need to, because ultimately it's their responsibility. They may do it one way or the other, and what you do may not really be what they do, because they have standard language, like they have all
Oh,
the
yeah,
town has
I would
standard
expect,
stuff.
yeah, I would expect that they have some kind of
So that
standard
was,
wrapper. But thank you
Right,
for the heads up on that.
yeah, that was the
But-
goal.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Nobody's got any extra cycles, and it's beyond frustrating to invest time in something and find out that it was for naught.
Right.
So thank you.
That was my thought, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's all of the updates that I had, Mike. So thank you.
No, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, item 5. I do not have any other business. Does anyone else have any other business to bring before the committee? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on. Public comment. Mike Clark has been on for quite a while.
Yes, am I off mute?
You are.
Oh, okay. Should I talk?
You should.
Okay, Mike Clark, I'm at 275 Cross Road. I'm down by Cherry Hill Farm here. I was intrigued I was watching the select board meeting and a gentleman representing the T-ball league came and I think he was on Zoom and was requesting permission to use the field at the old primary school in the center of town for the season for T-ball, and there might be some work going on at Marshall Park that he was trying to avoid a conflict in. So I thought that was great that we would finally do something over there and get some activity going. That's low impact, it's kids. But the select board then went through, it was kind of interesting that none of them really knew what T-ball was. So,
Really?
and I don't think most of them had a problem with it, except for the chair who said he would not approve it, but he would be outvoted. And I go back to the town charter that pretty much places the responsibility for town property and buildings with the town manager. So my first thing is, why is the select board getting involved in a town manager allowing use of this parcel and, checking the boxes, of course, for a low impact activity? So to me, looking at the charter and all, the permission should really be coming through the town manager. And so I know I heard things here about if you're going to try to move a property up to the town to a different classification or under someone else's control, you do it at town meeting. But this is just the casual use of a field. And the lot sat vacant for 20 years, and finally a purpose comes up, which I think most people would really enjoy. And we have the select board, in control of the decision. And 30 years ago, I helped build, and then the lower lot of that, actually on the left side, has a paved asphalt ramp going down to it. And it isn't in that bad shape, except for some tall grass and a little bit of undergrowth that they couldn't take the mower down there and probably begin to clean it up and create two areas for low impact use, almost as is. And back in the day too, my older daughter played under 8 soccer down there, so it was big enough, I think, to have a half a soccer field. So it's a nice spot, and I think the authority belongs with the town manager to allocate use of property outside of a significant event that needs town meeting. And I'm also a fan of leaving property that the town owns in a least restrictive mode, which would, keep that as just a town piece of property versus transferring it or other town property. Unless there's a really strong, compelling reason to do it. Because then it's open to more use by more people. And whatever activities they want to do. But that was my comment. I think that it seems like the use of these town property and allowing use, if it's not within the ownership of a certain commission, is the town manager's call.
Have you talked to town manager about this?
No, I was gonna go to the select board meeting next Tuesday night.
Okay.
Because just, I mean, they kind of left the man hanging. It sounded like the chair said, well, the rest of the people will vote in your favor, but we'll come back to it. And I'm like, well, that's okay for a month, but they do need a spot to play. And it seems like a perfect place, it seems like a perfect place.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, I
ahead,
wonder if you have the citation from the town charter that says that. I'm not a scholar of our town charter, and I'm not going to pretend to be one. So, but if you are going to make that, it'd be awesome if you had that in your hand and said, section 6 blah 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 this says, and here it says town manager shall do this, that, or the other thing. If you have that, I think that would be really helpful and powerful in the context of that conversation with the board.
Oh, sure, yeah,
Yeah.
that's published, and
I'll have to look it up. That sounds really interesting.
it says town manager to have full jurisdiction over the rental and use of all town facilities and property, except property under the control of the school committee and the conservation commission, and shall be responsible for the maintenance and repair of all town buildings and facilities placed under his control by this charter, bylaw, vote of town, or otherwise.
Very interesting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure what open space can do to help with this issue. I appreciate you coming and telling us about it. You might, Anna, I'm going to throw it onto you. You might go to the parks, the recreation meeting, and bring that up too, since it's a T-ball field you're talking about. And obviously talk to the select board or the town manager, depending on how you want to approach that.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, yeah, we have our meeting tomorrow, Mike. And it'll be on Zoom.
Oh, okay, I do have another appointment to be tomorrow evening.
Oh, okay. I'll bring it up with the group.
Okay,
If I may, can I add to this?
Yes.
I think that this recently vacant spot is something that should be on our radar. And I also watched that meeting, and I thank Mr. Clark for bringing it up. My recollection of that meeting was that the chair was against the permanent use, which because it's a child-friendly use that's intended to be used there, oftentimes it's one of those things that you can't stop the use of once it starts, because for whatever reason. It was made very clear. I think they had a decent discussion about it, I believe. And it was also made clear by other members of the select board that they were not in favor of anything other than 1-year leases. So 1 year at a time for the use temporarily. But again, this is a recently vacant parcel that has been very clear that the future use is not to be a park, as it was tried to be forwarded at a town meeting. And also, the chair, Mr. Jeffries, is also a member of the Municipal Building Design Committee, which I'm also part of. The current plan right now is to update Ritter, add an annex to it, and it makes very little sense to obligate that 2.5, almost 2.4 acre parcel to anything at this point, based on that plan moving forward. So that's just a bunch of additional information, but it is something that I think should be on this group's radar, because it is recently vacant open space.
Matthew, do you know how it's held? Is it held as general municipal, or is it school land, or what is it?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the schools turned it over to, and I'm pretty sure it's general municipal select board, but I'm not positive.
Okay.
Well, that's what I understand as well.
Well, not to make it more complicated, but recently they found out that TCP had been turned over to the select board, but the deed was never registered. That was still as one parcel, the whole school campus. And last year there was conversation about, from the school side about, is this our parcel, not our parcel, and so forth. So I don't know if they have cleared the deed or did appropriate transaction of the deed for that property yet.
They've done nothing, and the town line, it is 155 acre parcel, and that town meeting was botched when they tried to shift the care control to select board, because that article that was posted to shift the care, custody, and control from schools to select board was the entire 55 acre parcel. It's been brought
Right.
up numerous times that in order for this actually to be a municipal parcel, that it can't be, because there is no property line. It's
Right.
been put up numerous times for 5 or 6 years, and it's completely ignored. Nobody cares. But
Well, nobody
frustrating.
does anything about it. Yeah.
Nobody does anything, right?
Yeah. Anyway.
Anyways, that's where that is, as far as I know. It's one parcel, and but also to add to the question brought up by Mr. Clark, is the day-to-day operations are run by the town manager, and the select board has something to do with control over everything else. And that, I think, also was touched upon in the discussion held by the select board at that meeting.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thank you, Mr. Clark. Appreciate it.
Thank you for recognizing me.
Sure. All right. I think we're coming down to the end here. I have the next two meeting dates as March 13th and April 10th, just to let everybody know. So keeping it on the Wednesday night, second Wednesday night of the month. So that would be our next two meetings. Like I said, I'm sorry. Somebody say something? No? Okay. I will check in with the select board about when we might be before them for the Parmenter Road and Reservoir Road issues. I think that's it, unless somebody has anything else. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
One more thing, I'd like to
Yes.
remind everybody that issue with the 100 Howard Street just came up today. So I don't know, our next planning board meeting is the second Monday in March. So that'll definitely be brought up there, but I just want to remind everybody that if it does come up, then I'm gonna, through the chair of this group, try to float potential joint meeting dates to at least
That'd be a good idea. Are you on the town council's agenda by schedule for the March office hours by any chance?
Somebody in town doesn't like me because I signed up for a whole bunch of them and I got pushback for it. So I had a whole bunch of questions and I signed up for a whole bunch of times, and I was allowed 2 slots and I got maybe a fifth of my questions answered. So I haven't bothered, but I probably should.
Yeah.
Yep.
Are you the chair or who's the chair, Matthew?
Oh, Mr. Brenner, Matt Brenner is the chair currently. I passed it
Okay.
up just in time.
Okay. So, I've got, you probably know when the March calendar is, but I can forward you the doodle poll if you want.
Oh, no, I certainly have access to it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because then we could certainly entertain having a joint meeting if this comes up, because I know that the issue before was with all the different boards that have to look at right of first refusal, time slips by.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to avoid that. We had one slip by on us and we're trying to avoid that. So I would certainly welcome having a joint meeting.
Well, just to add insult to injury, this is one of the ones that would take a little extra time too, because I assume, and I'm gonna look for a nod from Brandon, that this is gonna require an appraisal.
Yeah, and it kind of depends on how the town council approaches it and where it lands with the landowner as well. I mean, if the landowner wants to fight it and create a rift, then who knows what the timeline could be. So it really is a question I think town council has to weigh in on, because did the clock start when they filed the A&R plan with you guys? Or do they have to retroactively submit a letter of intent to withdraw? I mean, what's the mechanism in this instance? Or is their A&R plan, in default because they didn't do this? These are all important questions to have answered. So,
Doesn't the letter of intent to withdraw have to go to the select board, Brandon?
there are clear rules around that. So, but I don't know if it can be argued that the intent is demonstrated by filing
Yeah.
the A&R plan.
Okay.
So more than anything, a active conversation with the landowner to identify this as a potential issue and hopefully have a cooperative response. To me, a cooperative response would be, missed it, we'll send you the letter, 120 days begins when you get the letter. There you have it. And that would be the easiest way to solve for it, and allow everybody to beat the letter of the law a little bit retroactively, but nonetheless. So.
Okay. Going to go back to meeting dates for a second. If we are in front of the select board next week on the 5th, Anna, I think you said you'd be going. Can anyone else attend that meeting?
I unfortunately cannot, and actually I'm double booked on March 13th as well.
Okay.
Again, I think I may be there on other circumstances anyway, and it may not be beneficial for me to be there for the thing that I'm going to be there for, and then represent another group for something that should be more friendly than what I'm there for.
Okay.
But like
Now I want to know what you're gonna be there for, Matt.
give me a call.
All right. Mary, were you saying you can come?
I'm going to try to come. Yes.
Okay. I'll check tomorrow with Heather and I'll try to get an email out to you guys and try to let you know what's going on if I hear back right away. Okay.
Mike, you might want to check with Michael Ray Jeffries because Heather's out this week.
Oh, she is. Okay.
She is.
All right.
And actually, we couldn't have more than 3 people there. Otherwise it would be a quorum and we would have to have it posted. Yeah.
Yes. And we did that the last time.
Okay. And there's
Correct.
enough time. If that meeting is in fact next Wednesday, there's time to do that.
There is 48 hours notice posting.
Okay. Because Matt, even if you don't want to be representing the committee, if you're in the room, you'd have to be counted towards the quorum, so.
See, there's another caveat to that open meeting law requirement is that you can't have a quorum together deliberating. It doesn't say you can't have a quorum. It just says if you do have a quorum, they can't deliberate.
That's true too.
And overlook that. So
That's true too.
as long as we don't deliberate, we're not gonna violate. So,
Okay. And it sounds like at best, we're gonna have 3,
sure. And
so we're okay. All right, guys, let's go back to a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
second,
All right, Brandon,
Aye.
Anna,
I,
Mary,
Aye.
Matt,
aye.
and the chair votes aye as well. I thank you all very much and stay tuned.
Thank you
Good
all.
night.
Talk soon.